Cowboys Nation, it feels like every single week there is something new to talk about with this team. And right now, one of the biggest conversations centers around George Pickens and what the front office might be willing to do to keep him in Dallas long term. Jerry Jones made it clear that he believes the organization has plenty of room under the salary cap to extend Pickens if they choose to, and that sparked a lot of debate. Sometimes people roll their eyes when Jerry talks about cap flexibility, but in this case, he is not wrong. The Cowboys have structured their contracts in a way that gives them the option to open up massive amounts of space, far beyond what it looks like on paper today. At the moment, the raw numbers suggest the Cowboys only have a few million to work with, but that is before the expected restructures kick in. As soon as the front office adjusts deals for guys like Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Osa Odigizwa, and Tyler Smith, you're looking at tens of millions freed up in a hurry. That is how this front office has been operating for years. They design these contracts with flexibility in mind, so when a moment comes to push for a big extension or even multiple signings, the tools are there. When you add up all the possibilities, the Cowboys could realistically create anywhere between $100 million and $150 million in available cap space if they decide to go all in. That is the kind of room that allows you to keep a player like Pickens without hesitation. The real question is not whether they can afford him, but whether now is the right time to hand him that kind of deal. From the Cowboys' perspective, there is no rush. They know the franchise tag sits right around the same number that Pickens will be looking for, somewhere between $26 and $28 million per season. That gives them leverage to wait and see how the rest of this season unfolds. For Pickens and his camp, it probably makes more sense to play things out as well. If he continues producing the way he has, his value only gets stronger. That is why I do not expect a mid-season extension, even though I fully believe he will be in Dallas when 2026 rolls around. Pickens has already shown plenty of flashes this year, proving he can be more than just a complementary piece in the offense. He brings size, athleticism, and that aggressive play style that feels like it fits perfectly with what the Cowboys are building. He is not only a big play threat, but also a reliable option when Dak needs someone to go in contested ball. Every week, it feels like his chemistry with the quarterback grows, and that is not something you walk away from easily. If he keeps trending upward, the conversation shifts from whether the Cowboys will keep him to how much they are willing to spend and how quickly they want to lock him down. While the spotlight shines on Pickens, another storyline is starting to bubble up around Jaden Blue. After spending the first 4 weeks inactive, there is talk that he might finally get his chance to contribute. Offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer hinted that Blue is extremely close to breaking into the lineup, praising his consistency in practice and his ability to give the defense a real challenge with his speed and explosiveness. That raises the natural question, is this genuine momentum for Blue, or just the kind of coach speak we hear all the time around young players? The thing that could push this from talk to reality is the status of Miles Sanders. He has been dealing with some bumps and bruises, and if he ends up limited or even missing time, that opens a door for Blue. We know Hunter Luepke can handle some of the blocking responsibilities, and Javonte Williams has been carrying the main workload impressively, but adding Blue into the mix would give this backfield a completely different dynamic. He brings that lightning to pair with Williams' thunder, a true change-of-pace runner who can also catch passes and turn small plays into explosive gains. Yes, there were concerns about fumbles during his college days at Texas, but there is no denying the raw talent and burst he brings. If Blue gets on the field, even in a limited role, it gives the Cowboys a chance to diversify their offense. Williams has been punishing defenders after contact, grinding out tough yards, and moving the chains. Pairing that physicality with the sudden speed of Blue could stress defenses in ways we have not seen yet from this group. It is not about replacing anyone, but about complementing what is already working. Fans are eager to see what he looks like in live action, because practice speed is one thing, but game speed under the lights of the NFL is where reputations are made. Beyond the roster moves and contract speculation, the Cowboys are always evaluating opportunities around the league, and one name that popped up recently was Cam Smith. The cornerback, once a promising prospect out of South Carolina, was released by the Dolphins after a disastrous stint that never lived up to expectations. Coming out of college, Smith checked a lot of boxes physically. He had size, length, and speed that made him look like a future starter. But once he got on the field in Miami, everything fell apart. The coverage was sloppy, the production was non-existent, and instead of developing, he became a liability. For Dallas, the question is whether there is any value in taking a flyer on a player like that, especially when the cornerback room has been banged up at times. Darren Bland is working his way back to full strength. Trayvon Diggs has had his own recovery process, and several others are sitting on injured reserve waiting to return. Adding depth is always tempting, but Smith has shown so little in actual NFL games that it is hard to justify more than a practice squad look, if that. When you watch the tape, you see a player who is not just struggling, but actively hurting his defense. That is not the type of addition you want unless you fully believe you can rebuild him from scratch. Meanwhile, the practice squad carousel keeps turning. Buddy Johnson has been picked up by the Colts for their active roster, which means Dallas loses a linebacker who some thought deserved more opportunities. At the same time, Paris Campbell is back with the Cowboys. His first stint was brief, with only a handful of catches and one touchdown, but he is familiar with the system and could carve out a role if he stays healthy this time. These are the kinds of small moves that do not always make headlines, but they add up over the course of a season when injuries inevitably test your depth. That is where things stand right now. On one hand, you have the massive question of a potential George Pickens extension, something that could shape the future of this offense for years to come. On the other, you have the under-the-radar stories like Jaden Blue's possible debut, Cam Smith's failed experiment in Miami, and the constant shuffle of practice squad players. It is a reminder that an NFL season is never just about the stars. It is about the entire roster, the contract decisions, and the young guys fighting for a chance to prove themselves. Cowboys Nation, as much as the headlines right now are all about George Pickens and the money side of things, there is another layer to this season that feels just as important, and it revolves around who is going to step up when the depth of this roster is tested. Every team in the NFL deals with injuries, and the Cowboys are no exception. So the question becomes which players are ready to take advantage of those opportunities when they come knocking. That is why the conversation around Jaden Blue has picked up steam. He has been inactive to start the year, but behind the scenes there is a growing sense that his time is right around the corner. Brian Schottenheimer admitted that Blue has been one of the most consistent performers in practice. That is not something you say lightly, because when you line up against this defense every week, you had better bring something special if you're going to stand out. Blue has been doing exactly that, using his speed and playmaking ability to mimic some of the toughest players the Cowboys will face on Sundays. When a guy starts impressing the coaching staff like that, it usually means they are looking for a way to get him involved. The only thing that has held him back is the pecking order at running back, with Javonte Williams carrying the load and Miles Sanders expected to share touches. But with Sanders banged up, the door is cracked open for Blue to show what he can do. You can imagine the kind of excitement this would bring. Williams is already a bruising presence who thrives after contact. He does not shy away from defenders. He looks to punish them. Blue, on the other hand, is all about acceleration and elusiveness. You pair those two styles together, and suddenly you're forcing defenses to prepare for completely different challenges depending on who is in the backfield. That kind of versatility is what makes an offense dangerous. The Cowboys do not need Blue to come in and be the lead back. They just need him to add another layer to what is already a solid attack. The big question, though, is whether this coaching staff is willing to actually follow through on the praise they have been giving. We have all seen teams talk up a young player for weeks only for him to remain glued to the sideline. It is the oldest trick in the book when you're trying to keep a guy motivated without actually giving him a chance. But the way Schottenheimer spoke about Blue felt a little different. There was an edge of excitement there, a recognition that this is not just about practice performance, but about potential impact on game day. If Sanders misses even a little bit of time, it feels like Blue could be the next man up. While that situation plays out, the Cowboys front office has to keep an eye on the bigger picture of their roster. That is where the Cam Smith storyline comes in. Smith was once seen as a promising corner with the kind of physical tools you cannot teach, but his time in Miami was a disaster. When you give up that many catches and that many yards and limited opportunities, you quickly earn the label of a bust. The Dolphins clearly felt he was not worth the investment anymore, and now he is out there looking for another chance. For Dallas, the temptation is obvious. The cornerback room has taken its share of hits. Darren Bland, Trayvon Diggs, and several others have all been working through injuries, and depth at that position is always fragile. Still, adding Smith would be more of a gamble than a solution. The film does not lie, and the film on Smith is ugly. He looked lost in coverage, lacking confidence, and unable to translate his physical gifts into actual production. Maybe you stash him on the practice squad and see if a new environment changes things, but right now, there is no real reason to believe he could step in and contribute to this team on Sundays. That is why roster management is such a constant balancing act. Every move has to be weighed, not just for the immediate impact, but also for the long-term development of the team. You lose a guy like Buddy Johnson to the Colts, and while it may not make headlines, that is a depth piece walking out the door. He was not going to be a starter, but he provided insurance at linebacker, a position where Dallas has had its share of issues. On the flip side, bringing Paris Campbell back into the fold feels like a low-risk, high-reward move. He already knows the system. He has shown flashes when healthy, and the team can always use more speed and reliability at receiver. It may not turn into a major storyline, but these are the moves that often matter when you get deep into the season and need contributions from unexpected places. When you zoom out, what you see is a Cowboys team with options. They have the cap flexibility to make big moves, the young talent waiting for opportunities, and the constant churn of roster tweaks that keeps the depth chart fresh. George Pickens is the headline name, and rightly so, but what happens with players like Jaden Blue or Paris Campbell could end up being just as significant in the grind of a 17-game season. That is what makes this team fascinating to follow. There is always the big-picture drama of contracts and cap space, but there is also the week-to-week intrigue of who will step up when the moment comes. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Dallas Cowboys fans might want to buckle up. Rumors are swirling that the NFL's most feared defensive force, Aaron Donald, is officially joining the star-studded roster in Texas. Sources close to the team suggest that Donald has put pen to paper in what could be the blockbuster signing of the offseason, and insiders are already whispering about the chaos this could unleash on the NFC East. Donald, a three-time Defensive Player of the Year and perennial All-Pro, has built a reputation as a quarterback's worst nightmare. His signature combination of speed, power, and sheer determination has left some of the league's best QBs scrambling for safety. Now, the speculation is that he'll bring that same ferocity to Dallas, where the Cowboys are rumored to be constructing a defensive line that will make even the stoutest offensive lines rethink their life choices. In what has been described as a bold declaration by those close to him, Donald allegedly told team insiders he's ready to go after the NFC East quarterbacks. Names like Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, and Jalen Hurts have already been mentioned in hushed tones around league circles. While none of these matchups are official yet, one thing is clear. Donald's presence alone could shift the balance of power in the division. The Cowboys, known for their star power on offense, seem to be pivoting toward a defense-first narrative this season, or at least a strategy that blends both explosiveness and intimidation. Fans are buzzing about the potential synergy between Donald and the existing Cowboys defense, imagining relentless pressure packages that could leave opposing QBs shaken before the first down. Social media, as expected, has erupted with memes and speculative threads, with one trending comment calling it the end of the NFC East as we know it. Of course, nothing is set in stone yet. Contract details remain murky, and league officials are reportedly keeping a tight lid on confirmations. But if the rumors hold any truth, the Cowboys may have just landed the ultimate defensive ace, someone who doesn't just play football but hunts it. Aaron Donald in Dallas could be more than a headline. It could be a full-blown nightmare for anyone trying to throw in the NFC East. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.